Welcome back, everybody, to 31 2000s horror movies for Halloween, where I'm counting down my favorite horror movies from the year 2000 to 2009. At number 15, Stephen King has made it onto the list, with a movie that has one of the most depressing endings ever made. That's one of the main things that this movie is known for. I won't spoil it here, but those who have seen this film, yeah, you know. But it's not just the ending that makes this movie so good. The movie we're talking about today at number 15 is The Mist. This was a movie directed by Frank Darabont, the man who brought us Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. So many people praise those movies. Shawshank Redemption is considered by many to be one of the greatest movies of all time. It's a great movie, and based on Stephen King's story, as was The Green Mile. But this is Frank Darabont's take on one of the horror novels of Stephen King, or the short story in this case. The Mist is great. It's a fantastic little Stephen King horror movie.
Norm! What the fuck? Get it off! Get it off! Get this freaking thing off me! Get it off! Help me! Help me! Help me!
Now, this is not Frank Darabont's first dive into the horror genre. This is his first time directing, but he was also a writer on the Blob remake, and he was also a writer on Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warrior, so he has had his hand in horror before, but I believe this is his first time directing a horror movie, and it's a great horror movie. Now, The Mist was based on a Stephen King short novella, it takes place in Maine, as many Stephen King movies do. You have this husband and wife. It takes place after a big storm. There's power outages, so a bunch of people are going to the grocery store to get some supplies. And as they are getting supplies in this grocery store, this mist comes blowing in, encompasses around the whole store, and there is something deadly in the mist. And as these people are dealing with this situation, it's learned that there are monsters living in the mist, and these people have to hunker down in the store and try to survive the onslaught of creatures that are trying to get into the store. As that's happening, you have one of the greatest villains of all time, Mrs. Carmody, who's a religious nutcase, and as, you know, all the lights and everything that civilized society needs to remain civilized disappears, and more people start dying and more people start panicking, she starts indoctrinating people into her twisted religious beliefs, eventually turning people in the store into a cult. And you have our main character, David, and his son in the store, along with a few other people, trying to find a way out of this situation before Mrs. Carmody indoctrinates too many people into this cult that they start doing human sacrifices. And, of course, they have the insanity inside the store that they have to worry about, and they also have to worry about the monsters outside of the store. So it's a very good movie.
It is time to declare yourselves. Take sides. The saved and the damned. Read the good book. It calls for expiation. Blood.
What?
This is one of those horror movies where there are monsters in it, but the monsters aren't really the villains. The monsters seem more like animals, and you can't really call an animal evil. Like the shark in Jaws, I could never really call the shark in Jaws evil, because it's an animal. It's an amoral creature. Same thing with the xenomorph from Alien. Yes, it's terrifying, it's a frightening creature, but I mean, while you could technically call it is technically the villain of the movie, it's not really a villain per se. It's an animal, it's an amoral creature running on instinct. And that's what the monsters outside in the mist are. They're animals running on instinct. They are a big threat in the movie, and you could call them one of the antagonists of the movie, but the main antagonist of the movie is Mrs. Carmody. Like I said, she's a great, great villain, the woman we all love to hate.
Well, it is this kind of hubris that brought the wrath of God in the first place. This kind of pride and defiance of the...
Shut up, you miserable buzzard!
You old bitch!
Now, The Mist is hard to talk about without at least mentioning the ending. For those who have not seen The Mist, I am not going to spoil the ending here, but it's hard to not talk about the ending because the ending is so notorious. Frank Darabont made a different ending than Stephen King had in his original story, and Stephen King has said numerous times that he prefers the ending of the movie to the ending of his story. But a lot of the stuff before the ending is good. The creature designs are good. They are all done with CGI, and they do look a bit cartoonish at times, but it doesn't take me out of the movie. But yeah, Mrs. Carmody is such a great villain. She is a lot like Carrie White. She's a lot like Mrs. White in Carrie. Like, in terms of religious nutjobs in movies, like, Carrie's mom and Mrs. Carmody, they are, I wonder if they're related. I wonder if they are related in some way, because they are both nuts, and it is terrifying. And it is a way of showing how people can use religion to manipulate people. I am someone who thinks that faith can be a good thing, but religion comes and screws it up because religion tells you how you're supposed to believe in something. And when you get into a situation where you get a group of people that says, we're right, everyone else is wrong, you're in very dangerous territory. And with the horrifying situation that everyone is in, they're looking for someone to turn to. And Mrs. Carmody, even though she's very extreme, is the only one that has some ideas. They're not good ideas, but they're ideas, so it gives people someone to turn to. It's a complex situation, because you have to, deal with the fact that there are otherworldly forces here, or at least abnormal forces here, and when people are cold and scared, they're going to look to anybody who is going to give them a solution, and at this point, Mrs. Carmody seems to be the only person that has any kind of, not good solution, but some idea of a solution.
As a species, we're fundamentally insane. Put more than two of us in a room, we pick sides and start dreaming up reasons to kill one another. Why do you think we invented politics and religion?
I hope I've made some sense with that here. But anyway, so yeah, she is a fascinating villain. Watching the deterioration of everyone in this store as things get worse and worse is horrifying and fascinating to look at. But yeah, you have great side characters in this movie. Stephen King movies so many Stephen King movies have great side characters. And they really bring this whole movie to life. Because this is a small town movie, this is an ensemble cast, so you need good side characters to bring out the story, and you really grow to care about these characters. Like, there so many interesting character arcs in it. You have characters that start off like they're going to be assholes, but then they transfer into more likable, but then they go back into being assholes. You have people who are, again, people who turn out to be assholes, but then turn out to be good characters. You have characters who seem to be, like kindly old people, but they turn out to be badasses.
Stoning people who piss you off is perfectly okay. They do it in the Bible, don't they? And I got lots of peas.
And the character arcs are believable because these people are in a very stressful, not normal situation. It's like they're surrounded by mists with these otherworldly creatures in it. It's very well done, and they do a very good job at portraying the creatures. Some of them are kind of, in shadow. Some of them are able to go right out in the open and see what they look like. Yes, it is CGI, but even with CGI, it is the designs are very, very good. The Mist, yeah, it's a good horror movie for Halloween. Especially if you don't want to just watch the typical ghost stories, zombie movies, vampire movies, werewolf movies, things like that. If you want a somewhat different monster movie, this is a good one to go for. It has good human monsters and inhuman monsters, so it's a good mix of that. And Stephen King, Stephen King's always good around Halloween. He's got so many good movies to watch around Halloween, so you can't really go wrong with Stephen King around Halloween. And The Mist is one of my favorite Stephen King horror movies. It's really good. But yeah, Stephen King on Halloween, Can't go wrong. It's a match made in heaven.
Oh no! Oh God, he's dead! He's dead!
Get out of here! Let's go!
Let's go! Drayton, come on! Come on! Come on! Come on, Drayton! He's dead!